Alright, welcome to round 2 of the sealed league for Shadows over Innistrad. We won round 1. Really like our deck. This hand's a little land heavy, but we do have Rancid Rats, which can deal with an early threat and be really defensive, and we have the top end of our curve here with Wolf, which is a fantastic card. So I'm going to keep... We got a little punished in the first round, game 1, for keeping a land-heavy hand, but wow, we just drew all lands after that point. So, I don't know. I'm going to risk it. Maybe, again, it's a little sketchy. Good draw with Macabre Waltz, so that's pretty good. Even if it just helps us recur the rats, it buys us a little time if we don't hit some threats. But, I like to see that. Kindly Stranger. And once we get Delirium, the card's just a house. So we're at least drawn into some stuff. That's good. Now there's another opponent that's on Golgari. Our last opponent was Black, Red, Green. I'm going to run out the Kindly Stranger, mostly because I have Macabre Waltz. I a lot of times like to keep the Kindly Stranger back and wait till I have Delirium and I can get some value out of it. But I also want to continue to grow the board state here and be able to deal with what our opponent puts out. And if I lose it, I lose it. I can always bring it back with Macabre Waltz. So that's fine. So I'll help our opponent mill. I'm just going to block again. It's another card that can come back with Macabre Waltz. That's really what this deck's doing. It's really working kind of like a traditional Jund deck that's really all about attrition and just getting small advantages and eventually, hopefully, winning the game. We have 2 Sim Prodders in the deck, which are incredible. And you know, that type of strategy, along with 2 Macabre Waltzes, we can basically trade off creatures and just get our creatures back, which is incredible. I really like this card. It's just cheap 3/3, and hey, if you have a Madness card, it's fantastic, and we don't right now, but we also have a lot of extra lands, so it's not a big deal if we want to pitch a land. So attack in with a Kindly Stranger. Got aggressive 3/3 Skulk now on the board. So I wonder if our opponent's splashing a 3rd color or if they're just using the Warped Land. There you go, to the slaughter. Just using it for Delirium purposes. So I'm just going to go ahead and sacrifice the Kindly Stranger. Like I said, not a huge loss for us because we can bring it back later when we have Delirium, and it'll be much better then. There's a 4/5. That's definitely a thing. And we don't have our 2nd red yet, even though we have plenty of land. A few things we do here. Could Macabre Waltz get back the Stranger, get back the Rancid Rats. The Rancid Rats would protect us from the 4/5. That's one way to go. The other way to go is we could Merciless Resolve, try to draw a couple cards and see if we can draw it into something. It seems a little more riskier. So I'm going to go with the Macabre Waltz, because I know I can put the Death Toucher down right away. And again, that Kindly Stranger will only get better as the game goes on. So the downside is I'm losing the Merciless Resolve, so we don't hit that 2nd red soon. We don't really have another way to draw cards, unfortunately. But I think it was worth it just to protect ourselves from just getting beat down by this 4/5. And with Skulk, we can continue to beat down with our 3/3, which is kind of nice. So it puts our opponent kind of an awkward spot. But I assume they're going to have another play here. And I am very curious to see if they are running a 3rd color. They're searching their library, so if they are, this is it. That's also good for us. They got white. Okay. Kind of figured. Obsessive Skinner. This is actually a very good card. If you can't deal with this, and your opponent has Delirium, can really run away with the game. And our opponent does have Delirium, so this is going to be trouble for us. We're one card off Delirium. However, if we get a creature in the graveyard, we can get there. So if our opponent does decide to attack in, we block with the rats, and we're there. Now, our opponent didn't, and I wonder if it was because they were concerned about us getting Delirium, knowing we have the Kindly Stranger. It's very possible. We draw a Sin Prodder, so that's fantastic for us. 2 Sin Prodders, just obscene. Now, our opponent can chump block this, but really, a card that powerful, I'm a little surprised they did. I'm glad they did. I really want to get that off the board. So I am fine with that trade, especially considering we have another Waltz in our deck. But, yeah, that is... I'm a little surprised they went for that, but we'll take it. So, he'll bring in the Sin Prodder, and we are at Delirium now as well, so... Makes the Kindly Stranger that much better. We need one more land to cast the Stranger and flip it in the same turn. So I'm kind of hoping we hit that. But that is fine. Opponent gets a little value there for lands, but now hopefully we'll start getting some value with our Sin Prodder. Opponent's coming in. Probably means they have something good and they want to get the rats out of here, but I'm fine with using them on a 4/5, especially considering hopefully Sin Prodder will start giving us some value. And there's what they were trying to get by with. 6/6 trample. If we can draw a land here, as a swamp was revealed, our opponent will pitch that to the graveyard. But there's a mountain, which we should have been due for, right? So that's perfect. Now we can just simply Kindly Stranger this thing away. Such a good card in Limited. I kind of want it to have haste. That'd be way too good, though. Be awesome if now you could attack in for 7, but that probably would be a little nuts. It would have to cost maybe 4 to flip or something. Alright. So we'll get in for 3. And we have another big threat in our hand, too. So, kind of like where this is going. Opponent's got the dead weight. They do deal with that, so there you have it. They only have 1 card left in their hand, but it looks like it's something significant. Oh, it is. Get Rock Monster. Nice. So our opponent's not messing around. They got some big creatures. So we gotta find a way to deal with that. Cobb Waltz. Now, got 2 Sin Prodders in the graveyard. Rancid Rats, which should protect us a little bit from the Get Rog Monster. There's a couple ways to play this. I mean, one thing I could have done is just attack in with the Kindly Stranger and see if my opponent bites and blocks it, and then I could have Macabre Waltzed, and then the following turn play the Stranger and flip it. But that is a little slow, and it does open us up if our opponent's another big drop next turn. Then we kind of took the turn off, really doing nothing. I don't know, maybe that would have been a better play, but what I like about this play is I get immediate value with the Rancid Rats, which are going to help protect us. It also gets a Sin Prodder back, which again can lead to some decent value, especially as our opponent gets down in life total. Once they're down to 10, they're going to be a little more hesitant about taking the damage to prevent us from taking the cards. So we'll start getting some strong card advantage. If our opponent only has one creature, even a To the Slaughter is going to deal with it at this point. So, I mean, we got some options here, but I mean, Gitrog Monster's hard to deal with, and that can really take over a game. So we don't have a lot of time to deal with this at this point. Opponent equipped up. Now, Hounds has Menace. So if our opponent can't play a second creature, we can start dealing with our opponent. But that's a long shot. But I think you just got to do it here and just hope they don't draw another creature. So at that point, if you can get them down to 5 and then play the Simprotter, you're in a pretty good spot. So they'll be able to search for a creature, so they will get one here. Kindly Stranger, there you go. So they have a Kindly Stranger of their own. No doubt they're going to deal with the Hounds. Our opponent didn't play it. They want to play it and flip it, which totally makes sense. But the only downside of that is they are going to take 5. And if they played it, well, I guess they would have lost it. Although the end result probably would have been the same. Oh, there you go. But they had a Silver Strike, so totally makes sense. They're able to deal with the Hounds. We're going to put the Simprotter back out there. And it'll probably get a Kindly Strangered. But, I mean, we got to give them a target for it, right? Before we hit something even better. But our opponent can't... Oh, yeah, there's their land. Okay. They can flip this immediately. So we don't lose the Simprotter, but it totally makes sense because now they can get in with this Gitrog Monster. It's going to chump here. Try to get rid of the thing. So if that's the case, then all they have is a Kindly Stranger. Of course, we have no cards in our hand. So, kind of a play-draw situation. So, I don't know. I guess the question is, would our opponent fallen for a Kindly Stranger if we tacked in with it? I don't know if they would have, but maybe that was the play. Yeah, we draw land, so opponent's kind of running away with this one now. Well, we can deal with one of the threats. Right now, the Kindly Stranger is a decent threat, but next turn our opponent can flip that into a 4/2 flyer, equip it up if they need to, so we're going to get rid of the flyer there. We're still taking 5. Well, it's awkward. Can't play that since we can't discard a card. So we'll be going down to 5. Another big creature. So that might be it, unless we draw into something really good here. Corrigible use. Now, I can Torment. I can cast the Use for Madness. Then kind of see what we get, I guess. They hit rats. It's actually pretty good. It's not for opponent attacks in. I mean, we could trade both of their creatures for our creatures. Assuming they have no other play. Next turn we get a couple tokens, at the very least. So our opponent probably has a trick here. They got 2 cards in hand. I mean, we have no choice but to block. But I don't think our opponent would just go in and willingly trade. Or maybe they will. Okay. Got a follow-up threat, no doubt, though. It's only 2/4. So again, this is kind of funny. I mean, we can play 2 tokens and we could trade again. Our opponent really has to start thinking about how many cards left too. They only have 9 cards left in their library. They milled themselves a little bit. The other thing with Magic Online, you have to take into consideration, I mean, our clock's already down to 15 minutes, and we could potentially have 2 more games to play, which can be difficult. Okay, so that's going to make it really hard for us to get across now. But we can at least defend ourselves a little bit here. Of course, unfortunately, we lose our to the slaughter. I think maybe we've seen all our removal, except for maybe Avacyn's Judgment. I don't think we've seen that yet. Which, if we could discard it to something, actually would be quite good for us. I'm just going to double block here. I mean, again, our opponent might have a trick, but they seem to be pretty content with trading off, so I'm going to assume that's what's happening here. You know, we get a land. I'll just hang on to you in case I have to pitch something, or at the very least, I mean, we don't need the land, so maybe we can bluff with it. Another land. I mean, our opponent probably could be attacking in, and we would have to chump block. I mean, we're only at 5. There they go. So, like, I don't know. Especially considering they only have 5 turns left, really. It's 6 turns, I guess. So if we don't get something, I mean, that's just enough to get us. And now there's another threat on the board. We have another blocker. Yeah, and our clock, I mean, we're a minute behind our opponent, so I mean, that's a big consideration. I think our deck takes a little extra time to play because of all the madness and random discard stuff. It just takes a little extra time. Opponent's attacking in. I mean, we're in a situation we kind of have to chump now. Opponent also has 4. We'll get a trade at least there. But our opponent still has 4 cards in their hand now, so they might be holding on to lands, but alright. Need at least another blocker. Well, we get another blocker. It's actually a really good draw for us. But again, our opponent still has 4 cards in their hand. They're probably hanging on to some lands because they don't have a huge amount of lands out. Oh well. So much for that. So we need another top deck. And we don't get it. Real close. Our opponent was down to 2 cards. I mean, if we could have found a blocker, or if they couldn't have gotten rid of that scarecrow, they would have decked themselves. We only had 4 cards left in our library, so we both pretty much went through all our deck. So like I said, I mean, we're still a few seconds behind on the clock. Our opponent's deck, I think, is just a little bit quicker and straightforward to play. So time is definitely going to be a consideration if we're going to try to win 2 games, just considering how grindy that last game was. That might be difficult on Magic Online, unfortunately for us. So as far as sideboarding goes, I don't know, there's not a whole lot to do here, I don't think. Just kind of looking at the cards to see if there's anything, but I mean, another grinding matchup, another deck that's very similar to ours in some ways. Saw that in round 1 as well. Definitely playing up on Delirium, a little bit stronger than our previous opponent was. Alright, so we're on the play. It's great hands. 3 lands. We got a Macabre Waltz. We got 2 big threats for later and a way to draw cards. So, yeah, I like what we got here. My biggest concern right now is time. Opponent is a good first turn play, but we top deck the Deadway, and that's perfect. We just get rid of that 2/2 blocker, which can later become a 4/2 flyer. Just get rid of it right away. Opponent's got another 2/2 follow-up. We got a card that can trade for it and go to the graveyard to give us a creature and an artifact, which will get us 3 different card types in the graveyard already. 2 real difficult ones with enchantment and artifact, so that's good. So if our opponent does attack in, or does want to take care of this creature, we'll get some benefit out of it. And here we go with Obsessive Skinner again. Now, of course, they don't have Delirium yet, but still a very good card. We have to be careful of that one. A little awkward. We got nothing to waltz. Kind of have to play Tormenting Voices here, but we'll just get rid of the Hounds, I think. Yeah. Because we can always Macabre Waltz that back. And we get another Hound, so there you have it. And we get a land. So now we know we're going to hit our land drop. I mean, obviously no reason to Macabre Waltz here just to get that Hound back. So that turn was a tad awkward, but at least we got the land for next turn. It really sets us up to play our big threats for sure. And then we also have a way to reoccur them if our opponent can get rid of them. So that's very good. A little slow, maybe, because these are 5 casting cost creatures. There's the 2 the slaughter, okay. So we're going to take a little bit of damage here, but there's worse things that could have happened. Opponent's still 1 away from Delirium. We have Delirium now. So that'll be good for our Hounds. Got an Incorrigible Use too, which is actually very good. We can pitch that with the Wolf do 5 damage to something and still play the card, and that would only cost us 5 mana. So that's going to be a real strong play. And our opponent missed a land, actually, yeah, missed 2 land drops. So our opponent's a little bit stuck on land. I mean, they're still getting plenty of plays, but in the long run, if we can get ahead now, that will be good for us. Alright, so I'll just attack in. There's a lot of things we can do. We also now have the other Madness card that gives us the 2 tokens, so I guess his bidding is also very good in this situation, just depending on how aggressive we want to be. And again, since our opponent's missing land drops, I think the best thing we can do is just play the larger creature. Just keep the pressure on. And the way this unfolds, unfortunately, we can't attack with it this turn because we're already in our attack step attacking. But okay, it's fine, and we still get a 4/3 creature out of the deal, and we get to do 5 points of direct damage to another creature, so that's perfect. We can kind of do a similar thing next turn if we want to as well. Well, our opponent found an answer. And they also got Delirium now, so things looking much better for our opponent. Now we have the Macabre Waltz, so again, we can get this back and do some damage. And if we get it back, we still have a play this turn with the Rancid Rats to slow things down and be a little more defensive. Also, too, our opponent's proven that they're not real shy about trading cards. I don't really want to trade for the Wolf, though, but, I mean, obviously our opponent would trade the Wolf over trading the Obsessive Skinner. So Macabre Waltz, that's fine. And in this case, we got 2 Hounds, too many 5-drops. We're just going to drop 1. All right, we'll get the Rats out. So I'm just going to let our opponent trade. Mostly, again, even though they're keeping the better card, they were stuck on 3 lands. They do have a 4th land now, though, but they don't have their 3rd color, so I'm going to be a little aggressive. So Skinner could even outrun our Wolf pretty quick here if we let it. Now, our opponent could make their 4/4 or 5/5 by the next turn. We could pitch the Wolves that will do 5 damage, kind of keep that under control. And then next turn, Skinner could be a 3/3. We could pitch the Giss's Bidding and take care of that. Again, that's if our opponent completely fishbowls. So, kind of is what it is. But I do think we got to get rid of the 6/5 before that becomes higher toughness. So the Skinner becomes a 3/3. We can deal with that too next turn. Again, assuming nothing happens again to our Wolf or to the bidding in our hand. We'll run this guy out too, because why not? Alright, so again another threat. We're just in a really good place here. So even if something happened and we couldn't get rid of the Skinner for some reason, now we have a Skull creature that can also attack around it, so it's pretty good too. Menace creature isn't bad either. But that's perfect. Got that. Madness cost. Again, opponent's stuck on 4 lands too, so, and they haven't found their 3rd color. I'll put them down to 4. I don't know if there's much they can do against this board state. And they'll probably play it out, though, because we are down to 8.5 minutes, and we have to win another game. So, I'm sure they will play this out. Again, it's a little awkward, the whole interaction of attacking with a wolf, having to pay 2, discard a card, when it's a madness card, clicking madness, paying the madness cost, it just kind of eats up our clock. Even when you're using as many shortcuts as you can, it still takes a few seconds off. Just adds up. So yeah, so they're gonna make us do it for sure. Gives us 8 minutes to win the last game, so it's gonna be difficult. Although we won the second game in less than 8 minutes, but the opponent was also stuck on lands, and they have a very grindy deck. I don't know. I'm thinking about Explosive Apparatus, maybe instead of the Neonite here. It has some targets, so opponent has a lot of small creatures, a lot of 2/2s, 3/1s, stuff like that. So again, a lot of similar cards as we're running. Well, I don't know. We got a couple swamps. I'm gonna keep this. I mean, it's not an exciting hand, but what I like about it is we do have Rancid Rats to protect ourselves, and we have Macabre Waltz. If we hit, there we go, hit a mountain, we got a Sin Prodder. So, yeah, I think there's enough there to keep. And Magic Online, I just clicked right past my turn. So, you know, that's what I do when I'm too worried about the clock. I got to keep my head in the game and not worrying about the Magic Online clock so much. So that hurt. And on top of it, I panicked and dropped the mountain instead of the swamp. So that was really dumb. So completely punted that. And I don't know, my big issue is I don't play enough Magic Online to really be fantastic at clicking through it and really getting used to kind of playing, especially at high speeds when you need to. So I do pretty good if I'm not worried about the clock. When I'm worried about the clock, I do silly things sometimes. Now our opponent pulls out a very early Skinner as well as a 2/1 flyer, which we're going to have a hard time dealing with anyway. So our opponent's actually off to a really good start here. So even if we didn't screw up that turn, we'd still be really far behind here. We still haven't drawn that 3rd land now, which is really kind of sad. We got some protection against the Skinner, but our opponent's going to just keep, I mean, they already have Delirium, obviously. They're going to keep growing that flyer, and we really don't have a good answer to that, unfortunately. And again, even if I didn't make the misclick, we'd still be in the same spot. He would have a huge flyer, and we really wouldn't have any way to deal with it. So, I mean, Reduced to Ashes would get us there, but even if we had that other mountain up, we'd still need 2 more lands before that's going to happen. But at that point, we're going to be pretty much dead. So, it is what it is. I guess if he had to misclick, this is probably a good game to misclick, because I think they got us. Now, if we had that 3rd land, I mean, we could Merciless Resolve, but we probably wouldn't want to do that because we just don't have enough resources. There's nothing in the Macabre Waltz. We could have played the Scarecrow, but that's really not doing anything. That would have been our 4th land. But again, we'll be taking, what, 6 next turn from the flyer? Does give us our Sin Prodder. We would have got our Sin Prodder a little earlier, so I don't know, there could have been some value there. But our opponent is at 20, and we don't really have a way to do damage. So if there's any cards coming up that would have hurt our opponent, they could have just pitched them and taken the damage. So, yeah, kind of is what it is. I think they got this one. So that'll put us down to that 6 damage that turn, or was it 5? It's 5 damage, so it puts us down to 9. Next turn will be 6. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll pitch anything we get at this point. Kindly Stranger, yeah, it's certainly going to the graveyard. Yes, it does. And still no land. So yeah, even if we were at 4 land, not a whole lot we could have done. And I kind of said it earlier. I don't remember if it was in the first game or the second game. One concern with this deck is dealing with a problematic flyer. We have a little bit of removal, but we don't have a lot of ways to deal with flyers. So that's kind of the weak point of our deck, unfortunately. Maybe we could have splashed a 3rd color to get something that could deal with flyers, but I don't even know if we really have anything great. Just kind of counting on the removal we do have, but if we don't get the mana, then not too much we can do about that. So yeah, if we don't have an answer to the flyer next turn, that will be game. Again, no reason why our opponent wouldn't pitch anything that we get here. So we're not going to get any card advantage. Simprotter, yeah, that'll go in the graveyard. Yeah, not big enough to bring the flyer down. Flyer will be hitting us for at least 4 if we use the dead weight, so it's kind of that. Oh well, hey, like I said, if you had to misclick, probably the game to misclick. So we're 1-1 with this deck. It's a really good deck. I'm really excited to see how this goes as we move forward. So hey, check out the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.